Okay, so Dr. Martinez, what grades have you taught and where?
Well, I taught in Western Kansas, and I taught ninth, 11th, and 12th. I've never had the privilege
wow.
of teaching sophomores.
Okay. And what were you English?
Yes.
Was that your subject area?
I taught
Okay.
English, but since it was a small school, like you grew up in, I also did debate. I also did forensics, the all-school play. When you're at a small school, you get to wear a lot of hats.
Yes. So what strategies have you used to support the diverse learners?
Okay, well, I really believe, as your instructor does, hi Dr. Perez, in sheltered instruction. I think that biography-driven, culturally responsive strategies are not only beneficial, but I think they're critical for not just English learners, but they have been supported with data for African American learners, for at-risk learners, those kids who may speak. It's kind of funny. I grew up near the Oklahoma border, so we had a lot of kids that their grammar might not have been standard English, and I found the same thing to be working in KCK with my students there. Sometimes they spoke in non-standard dialects, and sheltered instruction goes all the way across and benefits all learners. So that's the strategy.
Awesome. Okay, what are your beliefs about white privilege and how does this impact your decisions as an educator?
Okay, I think I'd like to talk about the whole idea of just privilege, because depending where you are, there can definitely be situational privilege. So, for example, if I walk into an area where the dominant culture is white, I am part of the dominant group. But I'm in a bicultural marriage, and so when I walk into El Paso to the Dillards, and I am now not a part of the dominant group, I'm the last to be waited on or the last to be helped. And that's just because I'm no longer part of the dominant group. I think that there is privilege that is contextual, and I think we always need to be reticent of that. I have a very interesting dynamic in that if you cannot see me, you know my last name is Martinez, and you make some assumptions about me. And I've had that happen to my benefit and also to my detriment. So I think privilege is something that's real, but I also think we have to be really careful and not say that it's only white. I think it's the dominant group, whatever that context is. I have friends who are bikers, and you walk into their dominant group, you will definitely feel their privilege. So you see, but I think that's okay. That's something that we just always need to be conscious of. And as we walk into areas where we are not the dominant group, or we need to be aware of that, but if we are the dominant group, we have to ask ourselves, is everybody getting access? And that's something to think about. It's a really interesting thing to talk about, I think.
Good. Okay, how do you embrace the cultural differences in your classroom?
I think one of the worst things that any of us can ever say is, I don't see color. To be colorblind in a classroom is to miss one of the most amazing aspects of our students. So we not only want to know what their background is, we need to know how their culture influences everything they do. I'm a woman of faith, I'm Christian, and I don't leave my Christianity at the door ever. If you know that about me, you'll relate to me in a very different way. It happens even in here in this office. If someone is a person of faith, we automatically have an element that we work from, and that helps me help them with if they're failing a class, if they've had a breakup, if they're thinking maybe they want to drop out of K-State. Their faith is the lens that they look through every one of those aspects. If I don't know that about them, I'm going to miss a really important way for them to cope. And so I think knowing the cultural differences is extremely important.
Awesome. Okay, what's been the most challenging thing about teaching for you?
The most challenging thing has been probably the student who doesn't care. And my favorite thing is when a student would walk into my class and say, I hate this class, or I hate this content, or I'm not looking forward to this. And I would always think, I'm going to make sure by the end of the semester this is your favorite class, and that you understand things you never knew, and that you love this content. So, but you should embrace those challenges. That's what makes every day fun.
And what's been the most rewarding thing?
I'd say that's the most rewarding, is at the end of the semester they're like, well, Miss, I didn't think I would like this class, but it's my favorite class. Or the student that says, now I want to go into teaching because, or whatever. So the most rewarding thing is seeing student success. Yeah. Whether it's you and you're now in your own classroom, and I see on Facebook you were, newcomer of the year or whatever, or my former students on Facebook saying, I saw a poem, The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost, and I thought of you. That's the most rewarding.
Good. How do you positively impact students on a personal level?
Well, it's really hard now because there are so many of you. I think I have 247 students, so I have to let go of the fact that I can get to know every single one individually. But hopefully, one thing I love to see is on T-Vals, if someone says, this is something I really took from your class. Now, I'm not saying I want to be the most popular teacher, but what I do want to see is, I liked this phrase, or I'm going to take this from my class. And that's what you have to do every single day, is to go in as positive as you can, and I hope you feel that. I use music, I use video clips. I just want kids to feel really excited about teaching. And that's my job. Yeah. If I'm not doing that, we need to know why.
Yeah. So how do you build a relationship with students' family, like in the past?
I did home visits. Okay. I asked every one of my students to invite me to dinner, and I ate a lot of yucky dinners, and I ate a lot of really good dinners. I would have some students say to me, you don't want to come to my house. Oh. And if they said that to me, then I wanted to meet their mom or dad or both for coffee. I sometimes took coffee and a donut to a welding shop or a tire shop, just because I wanted to have a face-to-face with the parents. But then once you start doing that, you get the reputation of that, and parents expect that. Yeah. So at the very minimum, you have to do some kind of an open house in your classroom and get the parents there. The school builds that in for parent conferences and that kind of thing. You do not get to know the kids at parent conferences. You get to know them in the grocery store. You get to know them if you go to kids' athletic events. Those are the places that you get to know parents. Much more, you have to go to things, and you have to have things.
Be involved in the community. And then leading up to that, how do you make an impact on the community?
I think that it's important for every one of you to go to a school board meeting. You have to. You have to go and see the broader picture of what your district is like. I was always involved in my church, so that got me out into the community. But it is really important that you make an effort to go to some things that you would never go to. Yeah. You need to go to restaurants of food you'd never go to. You find some really good restaurants that way. You need to be involved. If there's a parade, you need to go. You're going to run into at least one of your students, and that might be the one that needed to see you that day. So you have to be involved.
Awesome. So looking back on your very first years of teaching, is there anything you would do differently?
Everything.
Everything.
When you have your first year of anything, you would always look back and think, and that's how it's going to be your first year of marriage or your first year of your job or whatever. I probably committed educational malpractice as a first-year teacher, and that's okay. We expect that two things from first-year teachers. Number one, your enthusiasm will cover a multitude of sins. If you are enthusiastic and trying your hardest and getting a very good relationship with your students, your faculty member, and your principals, you've arrived. You just have to do your best every single day. If I would go back and do anything differently now, I would probably just try to be more organized, but I think I did. You know, I just think you have to push through. And everybody will go, oh, I'm so, because at the end of that first year, you have so much more to rely on for the next year.
Right, yeah.
But every year you grow. I change my lesson plans even now as a college professor. I'll think, did I do this well? What could I have changed? You know, I depend on that. And honestly, T-vals are great. I skim those. I want to look at the ones that might have been low,
right,
or the ones that had a suggestion. That's more important to me. What do I need to do and grow? And if you're not willing to do that, and sometimes it's like, oh, ouch, you know, I didn't, or you know, there's also going to be the student that's upset no matter what you do.
Right, right.
And you have to realize that too. But going back over, I doubt there's anything. I was trying my best, and that's okay too. If you truly are doing your best, at the end of the day, look back and go, okay,
you did what you could.
I did. Yeah.
Good. So what would be some words of advice for students at K-State pursuing a teaching career?
Okay. My advice to you would be to be open and honest all the time. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to throw out a test because you did something wrong. You're going to have to go back and reteach something you thought they understood. You're going to have to just always be coachable. Admit to the principal, I didn't do this well or I did that well. The other thing is principals do not like surprises. They would rather know that there is a furious parent than have it get so far that they find out from the superintendent that there's somebody camped out at the door wanting you fired or whatever. Just always be open and honest with your students. Teach from the heart. And enjoy every day because you're going to have fun and you're going to learn a lot from your students. The teacher always learns the most. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for letting me
it was fun to share. Good luck, everybody. What a fun assignment.
Yes. All right.